Hey, Anne, welcome back for another episode of Cultivating Courage.
Hey Mike, nice to be here with you again.
Well, I'm going to say right now that I'm feeling the same jitters that I felt when we initially did Cultivating Courage, when we were back on LinkedIn Live. And it's for a good reason. I think that we have both been sitting with how can we turn the flame up a little bit on this. And while I love jamming with you on different topics, what feels really edgy for me right now is to explore something that you've been sitting with and for me to hold space as coach and for you to be on the hot seat. And in my experience, when someone's on the hot seat exploring something near and dear, I think what is true to you is always universal. And so the listener is going to get something out of your exploration. And so thank you in advance for the beautiful gift of you showing up and being vulnerable. And joy is the topic that I think we're going to explore today. So I'm
Mm.
just wondering, like what are you bringing to our coaching session today?
Well, I'm also bringing some of these nervous jitters, you might say.
Yeah.
I'm just going to pretend that it's only you and I here, and there's nobody else watching. Who's ever going to watch it? No,
Yeah.
yeah. This topic of joy, it's a really interesting one for me. Um, yeah, I think it kind of always has been, because as a kid, I used to kind of put on joy because I was the one that would kind of break the somber mood that was present in our family. Like I'd sort of make jokes or be silly or talk in like childish voices just to break the mood, and it worked. It was a very effective tool. Um, yeah, and as I've gotten older, people who know me a little bit better sort of see that there's two sides of me. There's like serious Anne, which is kind of the default, and then there's like Anne after some wine, who's a little bit more loose with things, a little bit more easy, a little bit more joyful. So it's been a question for me, like why, or for a long time, I would say, like why is it harder? Why does it feel harder for me to move into joy states than what it looks like for other people to experience that just in everyday life? So
Mm,
I've given you a lot there. Feel free
yeah.
to touch on whatever you feel called to.
Hmm. Yeah, well, maybe I'll start by offering, if you don't feel settled, would it be helpful to just take a few breaths together and arrive more in this moment? So it really does feel like it's just Mike and Ann here. There's no one watching. And if you don't need that, then I can drop into wherever I'm feeling curious.
Let's do it. Right? We're in a coaching space here, so free up my
Yeah.
hands completely. Let go of my
Uh-huh.
fidgeting.
Yeah, and I'll let you. You've done this a million times, but like allow yourself to really arrive in this moment and feel your feet on the floor, feel your body being supported by the chair, and really orienting yourself to this space. Just taking a few breaths here. We'll start with some deep ones. So you can go inhale for maybe 2 to 3 seconds and exhale for 3 to 5. And as you're doing this, just notice what's here in your body, in your thoughts. Allowing all the parts of Anne to be here. The parts of Anne that are really serious, the parts of Anne that were the joy maker. I forget the exact way that you said it, but who kind of broke the somber mood in your household. And the wine chasing Anne, the one who is getting after it a little bit. See if you can make space for all of that. Knowing that all of you is welcome here. Yeah, you could just take 1 or 2 more breaths and open your eyes, and
Mhm.
we'll see what emerges from here.
Yeah, thank you. I feel a lot more settled now, a lot more grounded in my space.
Me
Mm.
too. Me too. Yeah. So I'm wondering, I do have a lot of curiosities, but when does it feel like serious and start to take more airtime? Like I'm hearing that when you were younger, hmm, maybe there was more access to joy, but also it sounds like maybe joy was something you put on to alleviate for uh, what might have been lacking. And I'm wondering when did you start to realize that your relationship with joy wasn't in alignment? I don't know if that's getting to the heart of.
Yeah, try to feel into this rather than be heady about it. I'm not sure that there was a moment in time, but it's just that it's always felt a little bit hard to access, and
Yeah.
just because I mentioned it already, like alcohol has been sort of a tool to access it, to allow it to come a little bit more easily.
Mm.
Um, yeah, but I'm generally not somebody who's, you know, bubbly and you know, banding along the street. I mean, it's I used to have a bit of a reputation at work for, you know, having the resting bitch face kind of thing when I'm concentrating on things and, you know, absorbed in things. Mm. So although I do smile when I engage with people, it's like it doesn't naturally go like far beyond that. That's
Mm.
yeah. Yeah. So
I
I
want
think
to kind
it's
of interject.
access.
I'm sorry. I feel like it wasn't a good question, and I want to hone it back into like what the essence of this is, and like what does joy mean to you?
Oh, that's a good one. What does joy mean to me? For me, joy is sort of a timelessness. It's full presence with whatever the experience is in a moment that makes you not really, yeah, bother with anything else. It's like you're not in the details of what's going on. It's just, yeah, it's sort of a pure presence in a positive sense.
Mhm.
I'm not sure that presence can be negative actually, but by way of definition. But yeah,
Mm.
yeah,
So joy is a pure presence in a positive sense. Yeah.
yeah.
What's at risk? Like it sounds like there's something at risk for feeling joy.
Mm. Well, I let my ego answer. Control. Because your question brings another question in my mind. I'll just let you inside my head
Sure.
of when it is that I can access joy in a place that's yeah, most easy for me to access joy is when I'm in nature by myself. Like for example, you know, last month I spent some time in Spain and walking along the beach every day. And when it's just me and the ocean and like looking at the sun and the birds and just being like in that moment, I'd have this sort of overwhelming sort of feeling that comes over me that like this is just so wonderful. Like
Mm.
how great it is to be alive and be like right here. Like there's a gratitude in it for me also.
Mhm.
But I think it's more difficult for me to access when other people are there, which is interesting.
Mm. Mm. So when you're in nature, it doesn't feel difficult to access joy, and when you're alone.
Yeah, yeah. And with no sort of inputs. I mean, if I think listening to a podcast or other kind of music would disconnect me from that.
Uh-huh.
Mm.
And when you're with people, it seems a little harder to access joy.
Yeah. Yeah, I think there's a self-consciousness in it. Yeah.
Yeah. Could you speak to the self-consciousness?
Yeah. Um, I think it's really just making myself too important somehow, like wanting to,
Mm.
yeah, filter that experience and make sure it comes through in the right way.
Mhm.
Mm. Not consciously, but it's
Mhm.
just like, yeah. there's just sort of these invisible hands. That's the sense that I get. That's the feeling.
Yeah. Can you presence what that might feel like? What's a scenario where you feel those invisible hands?
Mm. My mind goes somewhere else when you ask that.
Where does it go?
I want to be very transparent with you because I know you see through it anyway. My mind goes to moments where other people are feeling joy about something that actually just doesn't bring me joy, and I feel a sense of disconnection from them because I feel like I should be also joyful just as they are.
Mm.
But I'm not. And I think quite often it's because I'm genuinely not. It's genuinely not there for me. Like the I don't say the trigger, but it's not something that really lights me up. I mean, if people make I don't know, laughing about something that's really not my flavor of humor, or they're listening to music that really gets them going, but I'm more like, yeah, okay. I get it, but it's
Yeah.
not me.
Yeah.
Mm.
So in a moment where someone else is experiencing joy, but that it doesn't bring you joy, what happens for you in that moment? I can imagine what that's like for me because I know what that is too. But like
Yeah,
is there yeah,
it's a disconnection.
yeah.
Yeah. Mm. Which is
So
interesting
let's
if I go
yeah, go
back to
ahead.
my own definition. That joy is a presence. It's the picture I'm building in my own head is that maybe there's a self-abandonment.
Mm. Mm-hmm. So let's just see if you can maybe if we can bring presence to disconnection. Like what does that feel like for you in a moment where someone else is experiencing joy and and you don't experience joy in that moment? There's disconnection.
Mm.
What does disconnection feel like? And can you bring presence to that?
Mm. Yeah, it's yeah, again, it sort of feels like this self-abandonment in the sense that I'm making it wrong. Like there's a meaning that I'm making about me not being able to access joy using the same stimulus that other people are. And I feel wrong about that.
Mm.
And so I'm like causing it. I'm taking the blame for that. And I think
Yeah.
actually that process is what cuts me off from my own joy and makes me feel disconnected, because I do actually believe that the underlying experience that we have, like if we get rid of all of our attachments to everything, which is very difficult, right? That's enlightenment. I think that our existence is pure joy and is like, being presence. I think you can't never have that. Like it's always underneath. I think the meaning making that I'm doing in those moments is actually what robs me from having access to that.
Uh-huh. Yeah. So I just want to parrot back what the way that I'm hearing it right now, and we'll go from there. So in the example that I'm hearing right now, so let's just say you're with a couple of friends. They are telling a joke that someone tells a joke, a lot of people laugh. You don't think it's funny. They're experiencing joy. You are like, this doesn't bring me joy. So there's the moment where that happens. And then it sounds like there's another part of you that comes in on top and goes, you should be feeling joy right now. Everyone else is feeling joy right now. How come you're not feeling joy, Anne?
Mm. Yeah,
Is that close?
yeah, yeah. And there's one of two
Yeah.
answers there. Neither of them are in my favor. One of them's you're in the wrong room, and the other one is your perceptions of things are wrong.
Yeah.
Because it's a critical
Yeah.
voice. It's not a voice that is there to hold me and love me. Mm.
Mm. Well, what do you think this voice wants? I mean, there's two voices. You said one of them says you're in the wrong room, and one of them says your perception is off. What do you think? Let's pick one voice, or do you think they're the same
Yeah,
voice
actually,
saying two things?
I thought they were the same, but then when you just reflect that back to me, I'm like, well, actually, the one that thinks that I'm in the wrong room almost on some level feels a little bit more like an advocate.
Uh-huh.
Like, yeah, like probably you haven't arranged your circumstances well enough to be with people that you can really connect to.
Yeah.
Yeah, interesting. I didn't sort of pick up on that. Um, yeah. But the other one, yeah, the other one is more yeah, you're just different and can't connect kind of thing.
Uh-huh. And which one of those do you think is more directly related? Like I want to focus still on joy is what we're looking at here. And so if we're looking from the lens of you're wanting to experience joy and not experiencing joy, which voice would you like to presence in this moment?
The thing that's kind of just overwhelmingly clear for me, and I've never looked at it in this way, is that I'm really creating this for myself. Like I feel like there is a moment in time, like no matter what sort of context I'm in, that I can connect back to this joy. And even if it's a joke that I don't find funny, I'm allowed to also take joy in the irony of the situation, right? Isn't it interesting that I'm here in this space, having this experience, and I'm just with myself? Like I can see the possibility for joy existing there.
Yeah.
But it requires a shift in that internal, I guess the parts, the way that the parts operate together. And instead of be critical and looking for ways to change or shift the circumstances around me, to be in pure like acceptance of what is.
Okay.
That feels really like,
But it does it, and it seems like there is a part of you that that gets in the way of just accepting that moment for what it is.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. The judging, the
The
meaning
judging.
making. Yeah.
The judging and the meaning making. Okay.
Mm.
And is that what that part wants for you? Like it wants meaning. What does that part want for you?
Yeah, this is where this is where being a coach and being in this field kind of probably brings me undone, because I know that all my parts are conspiring for good.
Yeah.
Cognitively, I know that. Yeah, I think that's the purpose of the judging. But if I'm not if I'm not doing anything about that on the practical level, then it just becomes sort of judging for the sake of judging, and it just swells around, and it's just completely unhelpful. And sometimes that judging is not even needed. It's just, yeah, that mechanism where I get to see the judging come up and acknowledge it and then accept it and let it go. Like that's not always working as I would like it to. There's that resistance to what is.
Yeah.
Mm.
What is the judgment that you're having? And we're not going to name specific people. So, but this to me feels like a turn up the heat question. Like, what is that true harsh judgment that you're having in this moment, or in a moment like that?
Most of it is directed at myself, and
Okay.
I'm a big advocate for personal responsibility, and I don't like feeling like I'm a victim of my circumstances. So that's interesting, as sometimes that almost adds another layer of judgment. It's like you're doing this thing
Yes.
again and you know that you can change it, but you're still not changing it. Like, what are you doing? So even though it can be very empowering, it can also add some layers of heaviness.
Mm-hmm. mm. Yeah, so I hear on a cognitive level, you know that all your parts are doing what's best for you, but maybe on a somatic level that hasn't, or on a deeper felt sense level, it's not quite there.
Yeah, yeah.
Mm,
But I do feel it's important to also acknowledge, like, I've come a long way in
yes.
how these things work together.
Uh-huh.
I mean, you and I both in the work, right? There's been different angles I've looked at this before, but not in this particular way. So it's actually quite interesting. Some again, just to give you a little bit of understanding how my mind works. I'm sort of combing back through all these different experiences and going, yeah, like, how have I shown up? What's changed? So all this background stuff going on, all my layers that are coming together. Um, yeah, it's a really, really curious experience.
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
there's a lot more acceptance than there has been in the past.
Mm-hmm. Mm, mm.
Mm.
And by acceptance, you mean acceptance of parts of yourself.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And like, as
How would it?
the perspective, like the being the watcher, there's a lot
Yeah.
more going on, and really from an objective point of view also. So the judge feels a little closer, but the witness is a little bit further back.
Okay. Mm. How would it feel in this moment to bring acceptance for that part of you that's judging yourself?
Mm. Good.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. What's it feel like for the part of you that's judging yourself to feel that acceptance?
Feels like family.
Hmm. Mm.
It's like sometimes your mum's just got to put some tough love on the table, and like, it is what it is, but it's for the highest good kind of thing. I get where they call it internal family systems now, but yeah, it's felt experience of that. Yeah, no, it's that it brings a warmth to it, because I think maybe, like, just to describe the evolution of my judge over these years, it used to be extraordinarily cold, and just like, it was literally like, you're just a shit person, like, you're just not good, and you just got to keep, like,
Mm.
putting up this facade and just fitting in, like, you just got to do it. And
Yeah.
now it's really like this, there's more warmth to the judge. Sometimes it can get a little cooler if I'm not really, like, managing my mental hygiene particularly well, and we all have our ups and downs, but I think if I was to plot an average, it's getting, yeah, kind of like warmer, if that makes
Mm.
sense.
Yeah.
Mm.
So, keeping my eye on time here, I want to explore with you what's one thing that you've learned so far today in your exploration
Just
or insight.
it's been really helpful just to yeah, just to speak it out, and to really come back in touch with that truth, that joy is actually more available than what I might think that it is. Like, I really do believe that it is an ever-present thing, and deciding to have my own way of expressing it. There's a joke I've been making about myself lately, that my sense of humor is really niche, and I'm embracing that more and more. Like, the more I say it, I'm like, yeah. And some people get me and they think I'm really hilarious. It's very rare, but it happens. But I'm really starting to accept my own humor, my own connection to joy, and I want to say aliveness
Mm.
too. Like, it's just such an interesting process to go back and forwards and reflect on this, and just see what comes through. And my tendency is for my energy to go to my head and to be very cognitive about it, and I'm trying to also be in touch with what I'm feeling.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think like just permission to be myself, permission to
Yeah.
define how I experience joy, and to experiment even with which contexts I can get in touch with that. Because okay, it's easy if I'm standing on the beach, but yeah, I'm going to a concert this coming weekend actually with a group of friends, and I'm not drinking at all at the moment. Giving my body a detox for a few months. It's a 90s style party, and I'm wearing some hideous jacket. As it's going to be a really interesting exercise, embodiment exercise of how can I be in touch with joy, just that's just from me, that's not from some wines or some beers, but just from being present, from cultivating presence. So I think this conversation is perfectly timed actually for that. Mm.
Well, Jan, well, Anne, I am wishing you, the J from joy is stuck, and I combined joy and N into Jan.
Yeah, maybe that can be my
I
joyful alter ego's name, Jan.
Jan, I love
Mm.
that. Yeah, a little slip that actually is filled with some sort of insight for you.
Yeah, joyful Anne.
Yeah,
Mm.
I'm wanting to share maybe something about my experience that I think ties this up for other people that are tuned in, but I also just want to acknowledge you that it's yeah, like it's very human. Everything that you're sharing is very human. That in a moment of disconnect, that we have a couple of options. We can judge others, we can judge ourselves, we can judge our circumstances, or we can judge the combination of all of them.
Mm.
And yeah, it's very. I can really relate to that experience of something's happening. It seems like it's working for everyone else. That kind of describes my entire college experience. I mean, I'm really overgeneralizing. I loved college, and there were lots of times in college where I looked around and it was like everyone else seems to have their shit together, and it just isn't working for me. And one of my responses, like you, was to just turn to alcohol, and letting go of that is hard. So I want to acknowledge you. I can really relate to being in, whether it's conversations or work settings, or even, I don't know, at a societal level. It seems like the things that matter most to me are not valued the same way with a lot of other people. And
Mm.
that feels really disconnecting. And it's really easy for me, like you, to start judging myself for, like, everyone else seems to be okay with the way life is carrying on. What's going on with you?
Mm.
And I really relate to that.
Yeah.
And there's something really beautiful about just allowing that. There's a yearning or a longing for me, and that's the way that it sounds like for you. There's underneath that, there's a yearning for like a real connection in alignment with what matters to you.
Mm.
And just allowing that disconnect to be there in a really strange way can open up a lot more access to joy. And
Mm.
yeah, there's maybe a little bit more there, but I wanted to just presence all that.
Yeah, that's really helpful to hear that back. Actually, I think definitely for me, and I hope for our listeners as well, because it is such a human experience, and I think,
Yes.
I mean, you can read these beautiful books like The Power of Now, and you're like, oh yeah, you know, infinitely connected with joy and being. That's lovely, but I think what's most important to develop is the ability to kind of go in and out, and to reflect and review, and continue inviting ourselves back to that acceptance. And I think that's a little bit what you speak to, and yeah, kind of honoring the richness in that, rather than just
Yes.
looking and saying it should be different. And I think that helps us navigate a little bit more smoothly in and out. Yeah, I appreciate your framing. When I'm in the coaching seat, I kind of I go into a different space, and I'm not tracking the conversation in the same way that I normally would be. So yeah, I really appreciate your reflections at the end there. Mm.
Beautiful. Yeah, I'm glad they landed with you, and this is a good place to end. So thank you and for courageously exploring a tender subject for yourself. And thank you everyone for tuning in. This was a fun one. It felt like we turned up the heat in a way that we haven't in a little bit.
Yeah, we managed to make talking about joy feel a little heavy somehow. Quite funny. Yeah.
Yeah, it can be, and given we didn't talk about this, but given the political climate of the world right now and the just inordinate amount of suffering, it can feel really risky to experience pleasure and joy and delight in your own life, and so I really get that.
Yeah, absolutely. No, well, thank you for holding space for me, Mike. I really enjoyed this exploration, and I'm super curious to hear what people take away from it as well. If people can relate, or if people think I'm a nutcase, that's also fine. But yeah, really, really curious, and hopefully this goes to where it's needed. So yeah, thank you again.
Yes, you're very welcome, and thank you for joining me, and I look forward to the next one.